We are living in a strange age, an age where humanity can land machines on Mars, build artificial intelligence that composes music, and answers questions about the universe in under a second. And yet somehow we still can't face the one truth that has remained unchanged since the first cell split in two: death. It's the great paradox of modern civilization. Our knowledge expands exponentially, but our courage to confront the inevitable seems to shrink just as fast. We fear death so deeply, we wrap it in layers of denial, anti-aging serums, eternal youth diets, cryogenic freezers filled with wealthy optimists hoping future scientists will one day thaw them out like forgotten leftovers. It's as if we believe that if we run fast enough, eat clean enough, hydrate obsessively enough, then maybe, just maybe, death will politely wait on the sidelines until we're ready. Spoiler alert, we're never ready. Worse still, death doesn't text you a warning, it doesn't email you a countdown, it shows up uninvited like a pop-up ad in the middle of your favorite film. Except this one you can't skip after 5 seconds. And yet, while we avoid death, the universe embraces it. Out there in the cosmos, death isn't a tragedy, it's a process. Stars die, they go out in spectacular explosions, supernova scattering the building blocks of life across galaxies. Carbon, oxygen, iron, the very elements in your blood and bones were born in the deaths of ancient stars. You are quite literally a second-generation star. So why does that scare us? We are born from stardust, live briefly like a flicker across the galactic sea, and then return to the universe. Not as an ending, but as a transformation. This isn't poetry, it's astrophysics. Still, try saying that at a dinner party. Mention death, and you'll see people change the subject. They'll steer the conversation toward true crime documentaries as if watching fictional serial killers is somehow easier than talking about grandma's funeral. Maybe it's not death that disturbs us, but the helplessness it implies. We control everything else in our lives. We schedule Zoom meetings. We track our sleep cycles. We know exactly when our groceries will be delivered. But death? Death doesn't work with calendars. Death doesn't do convenience. And the cruel joke is, it's the only thing guaranteed to happen to all of us. We fear the one experience that may finally offer peace. The one moment when the pressure lifts, the inbox stops buzzing, and we no longer have to prove, perform, or push forward. Silence. Rest. Completion. Isn't that strange? We spend our entire lives trying to outrun what the universe has always understood. Nothing lasts forever. Not stars, not galaxies, not even time itself. Why should we? But maybe, just maybe, the problem isn't death. The problem is we were never taught how to understand it. Let's talk about what really happens when we die. Not the myths, not the metaphors, not the comforting stories we tell at funerals. Let's talk about what biology says, what physics implies, what consciousness might whisper in its final fading moments. Death, biologically speaking, begins not with the heart stopping, but with the body failing to hold on to energy. Think about it this way. Life is the ability to resist entropy. It's the ongoing defiance of the universe's favorite rule that everything should fall apart. Every moment of life is a rebellion against disorder. Your cells constantly repair themselves. Your organs coordinate like an orchestra. Your immune system fights off invaders it doesn't even know by name. You are, in essence, a highly organized pocket of resistance against the infinite chaos pressing in from all sides. But eventually, resistance weakens. The moment your heart stops beating, blood flow ceases, and cells deprived of oxygen begin shutting down. Neurons fire a final storm of electrical signals, sometimes called a brain surge, as if the brain itself is flashing its last thoughts like a lighthouse in a storm. Some scientists believe this surge may be responsible for the visions people describe in near-death experience tunnels of light, out-of-body awareness, light flashing before their eyes. It may not be a doorway to another world, but the brain's grand finale, a neural symphony collapsing in on itself. But here's where things get complicated. Because even though your body is dying, it doesn't all happen at once. Different tissues fade at different rates. Cells in the cornea can survive for hours. Skin cells, sometimes a day or more. There's no single off switch. Death is not an event, it's a cascade. You don't go from being to non-being in one instant. You dissolve gradually, like a planet slowly losing its atmosphere, molecule by molecule. Some parts of you hair, nails will appear to grow post-mortem, but that's just an illusion. The skin retracts, giving the impression of growth. Even in death, our bodies play visual tricks, as if to mock our expectations. But let's zoom out for a moment, because while biology explains how death happens, it can't fully explain what we are losing. See, life isn't just cellular respiration. It's experience, memory, thought, awareness. So what happens to those things? That's where the conversation veers from biology into mystery. The mind is not a singular thing. It's more like a network of networks, millions of synapses firing in patterns so complex they create something we call consciousness. But science still doesn't know how. We don't know where consciousness resides. We can't measure it, weigh it, or isolate it in a test tube. And that's where death becomes more than physical, because when consciousness disappears, where does it go? Maybe it dissipates like steam from a kettle. Maybe it integrates into the entropy of the cosmos. Or maybe it connects to something we haven't even begun to map. A field, a pattern, a structure of reality we haven't discovered yet. Not because it's mystical, but because it's more complex than we currently have tools to detect. We used to think the Earth was flat because we lacked perspective. Maybe we think death is the end for the same reason. Some physicists even argue that consciousness may be a fundamental property of the universe, like space or time. If that's true, then death isn't the end of consciousness, it's just the end of this particular configuration of it. Let that sit for a moment. Your brain doesn't create consciousness any more than a radio creates music. It just tunes into it. And when the radio breaks, the music doesn't cease to exist, it just stops playing here. Now, does that mean you go to a place that you reunite with loved ones? That there's a tunnel and a light? Maybe, maybe not. Science doesn't claim to have those answers, but it also doesn't rule out the questions. Because even in physics, we know energy can't be destroyed. It only transforms. So if your consciousness has energy, where does it transform to? These aren't metaphysical riddles. They're scientific frontiers. Think about it. We once thought the atom was indivisible, that time was constant, that the Milky Way was the entire universe. We were wrong on all counts. So how confident are we that death is simply the end? Maybe it's the beginning of something else. Maybe not you as you know yourself, but the essence of you, the trace, the ripple, the stardust and structure, the informational imprint of a life lived. Let's face it, for a species so obsessed with control, death is the ultimate insult. We plan weddings years in advance. We track packages in real time. We expect restaurants to predict our food allergies and Google to finish our sentences. But death? Death is the one thing that doesn't follow the script. No pattern, no logic, no fair warning. It just arrives, sometimes gently, sometimes with fury, but always without negotiation. So we fear it, not just because it means the end of consciousness, but because it represents the collapse of meaning. Who are we if everything we build, everything we feel, everything we love disappears? Evolution had a hand in this fear. The ancestors who feared snakes, cliffs, and the dark tended to survive long enough to reproduce. Those who didn't, well, we don't hear their stories. In fact, some scientists believe that consciousness itself, the very thing that makes you evolved, not just to think, but to worry, to anticipate danger, to feel the weight of consequences. Your brain is less a cathedral of wisdom and more a finely tuned anxiety engine. And nothing triggers that engine more than mortality. But here's the thing. Fear of death is not just biological, it's also cultural. In the West, we treat death like a failure. If someone dies, we say they lost the battle. As if death were a contestant, the dead were simply not competitive enough. We medicalize it, sanitize it, push it behind hospital curtains and closed doors. We pretend it only happens to the unlucky, or the elderly, or the other. Meanwhile, other cultures treat death with curiosity and celebration. The Mexican Day of the Dead honors the lives of those who passed with music, food, and vibrant art. In Tibetan Buddhism, there are entire books dedicated to the conscious transition from this life to the next. In some indigenous traditions, death is simply one doorway among many. These aren't just rituals, they're philosophies, ways of seeing death not as a tragedy, but as a part of life so profound, it deserves attention, even reverence. So why does modern society resist that? Because death exposes the illusion that we're in control, that we can protect what we love, that if we just work hard enough or pray hard enough or eat enough, Kali, we might live forever. But we won't. And here's the twist. That might be the most liberating truth of all. Because once you stop treating death as a problem to solve, you start treating life as a miracle to savor. You stop hoarding time and start spending it. You stop fearing change and start initiating it. You realize that if life is short, then small things matter. A shared laugh, a handwritten note, a quiet walk at dusk. None of it is permanent, and that's what makes it priceless. Ironically, death is what gives life its shape. Imagine reading a novel with no final page, a movie that never ends, an endless concert with no last note. At some point, meaning erodes, structure collapses. The beauty of a sunset lies in the fact that it ends. So does life. And that's not depressing, that's poetic. But there's something else. There's a deeper reason we fear death, one that goes beyond biology or culture. It's because we're afraid of being forgotten, not just by others, but by the universe itself. Afraid that our pain, our joy, our tiny victories and silent losses will vanish, that will leave no trace. But here's the quiet truth. You already are a trace, a ripple, a sequence of molecules arranged in an improbable, miraculous way. And the way you live, how you love, how you speak, how you shape the lives around you is already part of a story far bigger than you. You will not be remembered forever. But that's okay. Stars burn out too, galaxies drift apart, and yet their light still travels, long after they're gone. So does yours. Now, let's really pull back, zoom out, way out, because if you want to understand death, not just as a personal mystery, but as a cosmic phenomenon, you can't stay on Earth. You have to float above it, see the whole thing. The planet, the species, the biosphere, the time scale. From up here, the idea of my death becomes almost laughably small. A single candle flickering in a sea of stars. But that doesn't make it meaningless. In fact, it gives it a kind of sacred gravity. See, in the grand sweep of cosmic time, 13.8 billion years from the Big Bang to now, your life is a blink. But in that blink, you are aware. You can contemplate the atoms that made you. You can love someone. You can change someone's life. You can choose. And choice in a universe governed by chaos is not a small thing. Here's what's wild. The atoms in your body are billions of years old. But you, the conscious arrangement of those atoms, will exist for only a few decades. You are the latest version of an experiment the universe has been running since it cooled enough to form hydrogen. An experiment in complexity, in sensation, in awareness. You are the cosmos, becoming self-aware just long enough to ask, why? That question alone is miraculous. Now, some might say, if we're all going to die, what's the point? If entropy wins in the end, why bother? But that's like saying, why write a poem if it won't last forever? Or why fall in love if you'll eventually say goodbye? The point is not permanence. The point is presence. Your life, however brief, creates ripples. Every kind act, every honest word, every moment of courage, it tilts the future. Maybe not the entire galaxy, but someone's world. And that's enough. You may not be here forever, but the effects of how you live will echo longer than you think. There's an idea in physics called the butterfly effect the notion that a small change in one part of a system can lead to massive consequences elsewhere. It's not just poetic, it's mathematical. It applies to weather systems, to ecological networks, to entire civilizations, and it applies to you. The death of a single bee can affect the pollination of a flower. The loss of one coral reef changes ocean life for generations. So don't tell me one human life doesn't matter. It matters more than we know. And if that's true, then how you face death also matters, because it reveals how you've lived. Are you hiding from it, or are you learning from it? Are you chasing immortality through wealth, fame, distraction, or are you living deeply now, knowing time is finite and that every moment counts? There's a kind of wisdom that comes only from making peace with impermanence. It strips away the shallow stuff, the social performance, the ego drama. You begin to ask different questions. What do I want to leave behind? What kind of ancestor do I want to be? What story will others tell when they speak my name? And if those questions sound heavy, good, they should. Because we live in a time when our choices, both personal and collective, carry more weight than ever. Our species is approaching a kind of cosmic adolescence. We have godlike power with toddler-level foresight. We can rewrite genes, build autonomous weapons, terraform planet sand, yet we still struggle to treat each other with basic decency. The same species that sends probes to Titan can't agree on how to share clean water. So here's the real question death asks of us. What will you do with the time you have? Not just to prolong your own life, but to protect the conditions that allow any life to exist. That's not a spiritual plea. That's an ecological, ethical, existential imperative. Because if death teaches us anything, it's that nothing lasts unless we choose to preserve it. Not because we're scared, but because we understand the beauty of fragility. The way ancient glass holds more meaning than steel, the way a dying language carries centuries of memory, the way a rainforest, once destroyed, takes lifetimes to return. To understand death is to understand stewardship of each other, of the earth, of this singular, improbable moment in cosmic history where the universe can look back at itself and say, I was here, I saw, I cared. So now that we know that death is inevitable, that it's not a malfunction, but a mechanism, that it's not just a personal ending, but a cosmic continuation. What do we do? How should we live? Knowing that this finite existence is the only ticket we get, that there's no guarantee of encore and no refund at the gates. Some people respond with fear, others with denial, but the wisest among us, those rare few who walk with eyes wide open, they respond with intention. They stop chasing permanence and start practicing presence. Because once you accept the reality of death, you stop wasting time pretending it isn't coming. You start loving people more urgently. You listen better. You forgive faster, not because others always deserve it, but because you deserve peace, and time is short. Think about how many of our regrets come not from things we did, but from things we left unsaid. The goodbye we didn't say, the apology we swallowed, the risk we never took because we assumed there'd be plenty of time. Death reminds us, time is never promised, it's only offered. And if you're lucky, you'll recognize that offer while it's still valid. So, how do we live fully, not by hoarding moments, but by investing them in kindness, in connection, in purpose? You don't have to write a novel or climb a mountain. Sometimes living well means holding the hand of someone who's scared, or planting a tree you'll never see grow, or telling someone you matter and meaning it. A meaningful life isn't measured in fame or fortune. It's measured in depth. How deep did you go with the people around you? How much truth did you speak, even when it was hard? How present were you for the things that can't be bought, like laughter, grief, silence? And perhaps the most radical act of all in a distracted world, did you stop to feel it? To feel the weight of the sun on your skin, to hear the wind press against a window like it's knocking for your attention, To taste your morning coffee, not sip it while scrolling, but really taste it as if it were the first and last cup you'd ever drink. Because here's the thing. Every time you avoid thinking about death, you also numb yourself to the urgency of life. Every time you deny the end, you dilute the middle. But when you look death in the eye, not morbidly, but honestly, you gain clarity. You see what matters and what doesn't. You shed the noise, and you begin to sculpt your life like an artist who knows the marble will run out. So every cut matters. Now, let's be clear. Making peace with death doesn't mean giving up. It means showing up. It means recognizing that meaning isn't something you find, it's something you make with your actions, your values, your relationships, with the choices you make on an ordinary Tuesday that ripple through the lives of people you'll never meet. And when the end does come, because it will, you won't meet it as a stranger. You'll meet it like an old teacher, one whose lessons you've studied, whose silence you've learned to translate, not with fear, but with readiness. Not with regret, but with reverence. Because the goal was never to outsmart death. It was to outlove it. So here we are, 6 billion years from now, the sun will die. It will swell into a red giant engulf. Mercury and Venus, maybe Earth too. The oceans will boil. The atmosphere will bleed into space. Everything we've ever known of rebook, every building, every footprint on every beach will be gone. And yet, here you are, alive, thinking, feeling, loving, a fleeting moment in time, but a real one. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Because the truth is, you didn't ask to be here. None of us did. You were born into a body you didn't design, on a planet you didn't choose, governed by laws of physics you didn't write. And yet, despite all that, you get to decide what to do with the time you've been given. You get to decide whether to shrink from the fear of death or to expand into the wonder of life. You get to decide whether to chase immortality through distraction and denial or to find meaning in the ordinary, the fleeting, the painfully beautiful truth of now. You get to decide if you'll close your eyes and brace for the end or open them and participate fully in the middle. And that's not just a personal choice, it's a collective one. Because the way we treat death also shapes the way we treat life, each other, this planet, and the generations to come. If we fear death, we ignore it. We push the dying to the margins. We sterilize grief. We build systems that prioritize comfort over truth, efficiency over compassion. But if we face death with clear eyes and an open heart, we start to build differently. We build societies that honor care, that respect fragility, that understand the value of a life not just in dollars earned, but in love given. We stop treating the planet like an unlimited resource and start treating it like what it is, a fragile home with an expiration date. We stop ignoring injustice and start realizing that every second wasted on cruelty is a second stolen from someone else's finite time. We stop waiting for a legacy and start living one. Because here's the secret. You don't have to be remembered to have mattered. You don't need a statue. You don't need your name etched in stone. You just need to live in a way that echoes quietly, gently, truthfully. And if in the final seconds of your life, the lights begin to dim and the breath begins to slow, and all you have is the echo of what you've done and who you've loved, may that echo be enough. May you know that your time here, however brief, was a thread in something bigger. A star's breath, a tree's root, a child's laugh, a universe that needed one more voice and got yours. So when death does arrive, and it won't be a thief in the night. It will be a mirror, a measure of what you dared to feel, to risk, to become. And if you lived with courage, if you loved without armor, if you left the world even slightly better than you found it, then the truth is, you never really died at all.